Welcome to the Global Discussion, discussions with creatives, leaders, and thinkers. Today, it's a real treat. I'm delighted to be joined by Kerrie Finch. Kerrie, you're very welcome to the show today. Let's begin by asking you to introduce yourself to our worldwide audience. Tell us a little bit about the world of Kerrie Finch, where you're located, and the businesses that you're involved in. So over to you, Kerrie. It's great to see you here on the show.
It's great to be here, Simon. Thank you so much for the invite. I've been looking forward to this. My background is in communications and everything that means. So I'm a communications expert. I help brands and leaders to polish their positioning so that they're seen and heard, that they have cut through, and that they take to the stage, whatever that stage happens to be. I wear a few hats. So my company, the Finch Factor, that's what we do for the most part. We help our clients get on stages. We help with positioning and thought leadership, reputation management. And my sweet spot really is the creative industry and tech innovation. So I've worked over the years with all sorts of brands, everybody from Media Monks, or Monks as they are now, to Airbnb, to General Mills, to Framestore. Wearing another hat, I also am a professional conference host, stage MC, and a panel moderator. And again, my sweet spot there, but it's not exclusive to this, is the world of the creative industry in its broadest sense, and emerging tech. So you might find me hosting a stage at the Cannes Lions Festival in France for a week, or upcoming, I've got festivals like the Global Marketing Summit in Istanbul, or the Art Directors Club in Europe, which is happening in Barcelona. So I do a few different things. Another hat I wear is that I founded the local chapter, the Amsterdam chapter, because that's where I'm based. I founded the Amsterdam chapter of She Says, which is a global organization which is about helping women in business to basically, get better through events, through sharing ideas, sharing their network. And, the whole thing there is to lift as you climb. And it's a real passion for me to help women in any industry, but particularly my industry. And then the final hat that I wear is that I'm the Cannes Lions rep for the Netherlands, which means which is a voluntary position. They don't own me, which is something that I've done for many, many years. And I help the Netherlands creative industry understand why they should go to festivals like the Cannes Lions Festival of International Festival of Creativity. And I also help Cannes Lions understand what's going on in the Netherlands and why the Dutch punch above their weight. Was that too much information?
It's never too much when it comes to your background. And I mean, it's just fascinating, Kerrie. You do wear a number of hats. And I mean, it is fascinating. I think a lot of our audience, we talk a lot about creatives, leaders, and thinkers, and a lot of people are familiar with Cannes Lions, of course. And
Yeah.
you're sort of synonymous with that brand as well at this point in time. But you mentioned a few customers that you have as well through
Yeah.
the Finch Factor, and people like Media Monks is very, very well known. I know you got engaged in working with those probably a lot earlier than people
Oh,
know them today, and
yeah.
Airbnb and Saatchi. And I mean, tell us a bit about that. Could you unpack maybe some of that for us a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I found my kind of my love, my sweet spot, which is creative innovation and emerging tech. And I found that sweet spot because I'd moved to Amsterdam by pure accident. I was invited to freelance for a comms company here in Amsterdam for 3 months in 2000, and 24 years later, I'm still here. And part of my journey through to where I am now is that I started working with Wieden and Kennedy, and I was the very first PR director or brand director. And it was a fascinating time. It was around 2004 when I joined, and I just fell in love with the creative industry there, and I loved working with the brands that Wieden and Kennedy was working with. So everybody from Nike and Heineken to Electronic Arts and so many brands in between. And I really loved working with, the likes of Coca-Cola, for example, and helping them with their positioning and with their communications from my perspective, from my world, bringing what I can bring to the table to the mix. And I moved on from there and immediately basically started working with a lot of brands and a lot of agencies from the same world. And Media Monks was one of my first clients back in 2009, 2010, I think it was. And they basically were one office, and they came to me, Victor Knapp and Wesley Tahar, and they basically said, we want to be the biggest, the world's global digital production company, the biggest on the planet. And I laughed. And then basically we all rolled up our sleeves and we, we built a really brilliant reputation for them. And I worked with them to the point where just after they sold or merged, as it were, with S4 Capital. So that was a long journey. That was over 12 years, and it was brilliant. And I'm still in touch with the folks there. They're really inspirational people. I don't even know what your question was, but but it was fun. It was certainly a roller coaster ride working with the likes of people like Monks. But I've also worked with the brilliant Jonathan Mildenhall, who I'd known from Wieden and Kennedy days when he was working at Coca-Cola. And when he joined Airbnb in San Francisco as their CMO, he brought my company in to help them with their creative agenda. And this, if you remember back, Simon, was before companies really had in-house creativity, before there was such a thing as in-housing, and they wanted to be known for building a brand, with the help of creative innovation. And to do that, they were building a team in-house. And in order to do that efficiently, they wanted people to know about them, that they were even doing this. And I worked very closely with brilliant people over the years.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Kerrie. I love talking to people that have a passion, and it's obvious, from the way you're talking, that you have a very strong passion for everything in the creative field. And I
Yeah.
just want to say, just for people watching or listening to this episode around the world, I mean, Wieden and Kennedy are globally well known and respected in what they do. And you mentioned Nike, for example, in
Yeah.
Portland, Oregon, where their global headquarters are. All those really cool ads that we see that Nike are involved in, it all comes out of that W and K sort of house. And you looked after a lot of that, I know, outside of the US for them, even though you're from Amsterdam. And I mean, it is incredible because it's just phenomenal. And some of the other, like Media Monks and Airbnb and Coca-Cola, you've done an awful lot of phenomenal work with these brands. And my question that I'm coming to for you, Kerrie, is
I can listen to you all day, so no worries.
well, the that sort of situation where you're working globally, because I know you work globally. You one minute you're on global stages at some of the biggest events in the world. The next minute you're deep in creative strategy for brands. Um, but working globally, being based in Amsterdam, how does that work in your world? What's that like? Because obviously, this many years later, it must be a successful formula for you.
Yeah, I love Amsterdam for, so many cities are known as, multicultural melting pots. Amsterdam is that in a way that I've never recognized in other cities before. And even, for example, back in the day when I worked at Wieden and Kennedy, the Amsterdam office, let's say it was 25 different nationalities under one roof. And, with a team of what was then 150 people, that really informed the work. And that, I think, is a huge part of why the work coming out of Europe was such a phenomenal success. And that was unlike other offices, even within Wieden and Kennedy. And I think that has a lot to do with Amsterdam. There are so many nationalities that come here because Amsterdam is seen as a level playing field in so many ways. So many countries or cities are somewhat loaded. So, for example, the UK is very London for the creative industry. And not everybody thinks that the Brits rule the waves. Ditto, if you're going to base a company in France or give your communications or marketing business to a company based in France or in the UK, globally with all your offices around the world, that has sometimes some political, it comes with some political baggage. And I think that what happens is that the Dutch don't have that. The Netherlands, Amsterdam, doesn't have that baggage. It's also very easy to be a foreigner and live and work in Amsterdam specifically. Firstly, it's a really big cultural playing field, and the city certainly punches way above its weight in terms of international firepower. Also, it's got a brilliant, the basic things like, the tax breaks have been brilliant over the years for businesses, founding themselves in Amsterdam. But also, it is a global hub in terms of its airport. And it also is, historically, it's a pioneering city. It was based on people being seafarers, and traders. And I think there's something in the Dutch DNA, and that really, informs the city. And I find that fascinating. And in these days, the digital world has exploded, of course, over the years. And so many new companies have launched themselves either, exclusively from Amsterdam, or certainly have set up a European hub here. And I think that just brings a richness to, to the creative and innovation industry. There's a big startup hub, there's a big creative industry hub, whether it's advertising, it's design, it's production. I've seen it change massively over the last 20 years.
I couldn't agree more. I was fortunate enough to do a little bit of business in Amsterdam over the years. I've had a family member live there for quite a number of years, so I visited the area a lot. I really loved. I went to stay. Just to digress for a second, I had to stay at the Hilton Amsterdam.
It sounds like a nightmare.
Well, there's two, but I wanted to stay at the one which is slightly outside, which is where John Lennon and Yoko Ono
Oh, I
stayed.
know that one. Yes.
Yeah, in the bed in for peace when they were in their
Yeah.
bed, and they had the world's press in
Yes.
the room taking photographs of them, which was a very famous point. But I take your point about it, that creative melting pot, something maybe in their DNA and their history. I think the architecture, the art galleries, that
Yes.
just has the museums and a
Yeah.
lot of creative shops that are there
Yeah.
doing some wonderful work, including, of course, your good selves. Um, but it is fascinating. It's nice to see that sort of where you can pretty much with technology today, but
Yeah.
also having that hub in Europe. It's what a launching pad that can be, and that's testament. Of course, you're going to work with Heineken. You mentioned those earlier. They're obviously
You can't
smack
not.
bang in the middle. They're hard to miss in Amsterdam. Um, but a lot of the other brands that you've mentioned as well have a presence and do a lot of work from Amsterdam. So thank you for sharing that. Another thing I wanted to come back to, because you mentioned it at the top, but you talked about she says, and I just
Oh
want to
yeah.
get a little bit of background into why that was an important thing for you to set up, and maybe just unpack that a little bit for me, would you?
Sure. I don't know if you or your listeners know what She Says is. It was set up by Laura Jordan Bamback, who's a fabulous Australian living in the UK, and and others. And I remember meeting up with her and her saying, "Well, why don't you just open? Why don't you launch a chapter in Amsterdam?" And me thinking, "Oh, I hate people. I hate women when they shake the talking stick and they just moan about men and they moan about how bad it is." And then I just thought, wait a minute. I'm in my 40s, and when I was launching this, I'm in my 40s, and there's still inequality in pay. There's still a glass ceiling. Women are still disrespected all around the world, and there are so many things that simply haven't changed in business over the years. And I just thought, do you know what? Let's just throw my hat in the ring. And I found that there was a real not a well, a need is a big word, but I was very pleased to find that other women were also passionate about coming together and not talking about women's issues, as it were, that might be, pre conceived women's issues. But what we do at She Says in Amsterdam, and I think each chapter is probably different, is everybody and anybody is welcome, but only women take to the stage. And that's the point for us, that, the clue's in the name, it's She Says. So only women take to the stage. And so we talk about anything that happens. It could be um, how do you negotiate, for better pay? How do you ask for help? How do you feel the fear and do it anyway? It could be anything. And then we get experts, or certainly people from the She Says community, to share their stories and to be inspirational by, that see it, be it thing. You need to be able to see these women, see these other humans, making a difference, making a change. Oh, if they can do it, I can too. And we find that it's hugely inspirational, particularly to the younger generations. And so that's why we talk about, you lift as you climb, that you bring along the next generation with you. And so I've got a lot of time for it. It's entirely, a voluntary effort. It's my side hustle. And we've actually got an event next week, and we probably get about 100 people each event, and we probably do them on average about once every 2 months. So I love that it's a real community now, and of course it's a team effort. I just happen to have started it in Amsterdam, but it's a massive team effort. There's a whole leadership team who are there working just as hard as I do.
Yeah, and I love the fact that it's not a personal agenda. People can come along.
Yeah.
It's sort of that inspirational, co-created activism
Yeah.
that helps really move the dial. I don't know what the latest count is, but there were sort of 70, 80,000 people involved in this around the world. It's going
It's
really well. And
huge.
as you say, having examples and being able to talk about important topics, it's such a great movement to
Yeah.
be involved in, and it's global.
It's global. I think there are more than 50 chapters around the
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
And there's certainly, well, I'm sure there'll be one near everybody who is listening. I'm sure they can find one. And if they can't find one near them, get in touch with She Says Global. We are She Says, I think the email address is. Google them at the very least and find out where your local chapter is. And if there isn't one, get in touch with the people who run it globally, and see how you can help out and get involved locally. I've found it really inspirational to me, because it's just sharing your stories, sharing your experiences, and it's a very easy entry point to asking for help, and asking for advice, finding a mentor, all sorts. It's I find it brilliant for the community. Yeah.
Well, I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Kerrie. Another thing I want to ask you, if I can, is about you were talking earlier about this melting pot that where you live and work, and how that helps. But today's business is very much global. The internet
Yeah.
kind of democratized it, not in all corners of the world, but in a lot of places. We
Yeah.
can talk to each other a lot more easier today than we were ever able to do that. But when it comes to getting cut through for a brand, when it comes to getting that brand voice, that tone right, when
Yeah.
you're dealing with things internationally, when you're dealing with different cultures, communities, different language, different narratives, um, and of course, we're in at the time of our talking, we're very much in the world of AI today too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, are you seeing challenges that businesses are seeing now when they're looking to scale? Is it easier now than it was a decade or two ago, or are they just a different set of complex problems? I'd love to know your vantage point, because you've kind of got almost 3 decades of expertise, if not more, in this area, and you're at the cutting edge of working with the brands that everybody knows. So, what's your view on where we're at? Is it harder? Is it easier? Is it complex?
Do you know what? I think it's simply different. I think some things are easier. AI scares some people, and other people are embracing it. I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's the root of all evil. I think it can be and is and will continue to be, you know, a fantastic tool, So, for example, but you talk about global, and I think brands more than ever now need to communicate and connect with people. And I think people need to communicate and connect with people. This is a post-COVID world. And it's almost like the new luxury is being in a room with people. And that's why something like She Says is so fantastic. And this is why I love being a conference host, a stage MC, because you're in a room with people. And I think that is everything these days. I think that there's always going to be local versus global. I think you need to understand the nuances of your audience and what that means more than ever. I also do think that as a brand, you need to be really clear on who and what you are and why you are. And if your vision, mission, purpose is all about making the best blue widgets, go forth and prosper. That's nothing wrong with that. And if your vision, mission, purpose is creating biodegradable shoes, brilliant. But it's horses for courses. And I think that there's so much noise. We all know how much noise there is out there these days. Social media is bonkers. The TV broadcasting channels and the platforms, we have so much content. So in order to get cut through, you need a really clear position. And I think you need to be seen to have a point of view, have a really clear point of view. And this is what we work with our clients on anyway, is position and what your thought, what your point of view is. And we help our clients and the people who are in those clients, who are in those brands, the leaders, we help them to become thought leaders. And I think that's really important for cut through. People need to know who or what or why their brand is. I think because we all want to make a connection. So the easier that a global brand or a local brand can make that connection easy for someone, the better.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's definitely something that resonates very strongly with me, Kerrie, in the way that you've articulated it, because it is a noisy, busy world. It is hard to get cut through.
Yeah.
And if you're just saying the same things and, putting it out there into this echo chamber, it doesn't really get you anywhere. I love what you said about, having a purpose, really understanding the brand, understanding what you're about, having some meaningful thoughts behind that and beliefs behind that. And I think that thought leadership, that investment in brand, that investment in who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong. We will know as the years unfold. But at the time of recording, when it comes to whether it's the spoken word, the written word, or video, audio, all the different content types, um, it's just going to get noisier and noisier. We've now got machines producing all this
Yes.
stuff, and it's going to come back to that genuine, authentic voice, that those values that you believe in, and that message that you hold true to. That's kind of what you're saying here, isn't it?
Yeah,
That
it
seems to be
is.
the all important thing here as we move forward, if you want to truly scale.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think if you want to be successful, if you want to grow your business and in any way, I think you've got to be able to connect with your audience more than ever. And that really starts with knowing yourself. It just starts with knowing yourself. And I do think that we all crave um, connection and personal connection. So the more that a brand can be in conversation with its consumers, with people, the better, because that's all I think anyway, that's what I want. I want to be in conversation with other, with fellow humans. I don't want to feel like I'm being sold to by a bot. So yeah. Yeah.
100%. Last thing, and then I want to move on to a couple of other questions I want to get to before I don't want to run out of time. You're obviously on the stage a lot. You're hosting, as I said earlier, some really big events. You're well known in what you do there, whether it's as a speaker yourself or whether it's as a host and an MC for some of the world's largest activities. Um, what do you love about that type of work? I know obviously you must meet a lot of interesting people, but
Yes.
you're really good at this particular passion of yours. And also, I know, particularly when we're talking about scaling business as
Yeah.
well and getting cut through and all that good stuff, some founders struggle with that. Standing on a stage for some people can be quite scary.
It is, and to be perfectly honest, there's a little bit of a to be perfectly honest, I find it scary as well. I get scared, I get nervous, and my sweet spot is hosting a stage, hosting an event, because I have realized that I am best when I'm playing that role of a circus ringmaster, which is not to be the woman on the massive, on the back of the elephant, breathing fire. It's for me to engage with the audience, bring them in, have the people who are about to speak feel comfortable to be going on, have them feel comfortable that someone's got it, that they've got the stage, you're in safe hands, but also the audience needs to feel like that as well. And the audience wants a red thread. The audience wants to understand, why am I in this room, listening to what might be 8, 12 people through the day. Why should I stay in this hall? Why shouldn't I go somewhere else? And my favorite thing is when somebody will come up to me and say, "We've been here all day. We just love it. We just love it. We've been here all day with you. We come because we want to. We love this room. Perfect, brilliant. I'm there to engage with the audience and make them feel part of a community for that hour, for that afternoon, for that day, for that week. And that's what I love, is that bringing that to the table. Yeah, and I think of it as being the circus ringmaster. I'm not there to fly the trapeze necessarily. I'm there to point towards the people flying on the trapeze. So
Very
yes,
good.
I love that. That's what I really love about it.
Yeah, that's
The
great.
other thing, which is a bit more obvious, is that, you know, you're in a room with some really smart people. And if I'm the MC, I'm there and I can't particularly leave the room. And you're listening to sometimes hours of content. And it can be, you know, fantastic. And then I'm learning along with everybody else, you know, and that is a real gift. That is fantastic as well.
Yeah, what a great opportunity. Well, thank you, Kerrie. It's been wonderful so far. I want to squeeze in a couple of quick questions before we come to the end here. Now, I don't know how to ask you this next question, but I do ask it of all my guests. But with you, I'm not sure what the answer is going to be because of all these hats that you wear. What does the next 6 to 12 months look like for you, Kerrie? How do you plan with everything that you've got going on? What does your horizon look like? What does your roadmap look like? How do you operate today? You know, decades later, you've got a lot of experience. What does that look like in your world, Kerrie?
That's a really good question. And I do wear lots of hats, and I can sometimes overpack my agenda. So what I'm trying to do up until the end of the year is I have 3 or 4 major events coming up. So I'm going to be in Barcelona, I'm going to be in Istanbul, I'm going to be in Berlin, I'm going to be in Amsterdam, hosting different festivals and so forth. That I like to get those rocks in the road planned in, because they can, you know, they can need, you know, sometimes 6 months, 9 months, 12 months in advance to actually be booked in. So that gives me an ebb and a flow. And I really love that. And then around that is the client work, the work I do with brands. It might be working on speaker training, you know, with brands. It might be creating a series of events internally with, you know, different brands. I'm also about to be launching something with an American, some American, will be new American colleagues. So we'll need to watch out for that as well.
That's a
There's
new
something
hat,
else coming
Kerrie.
up.
That's a
That's a
new
new
hat.
hat. There's only so many hat stands I have in my house before it's just going to topple over. But this is going to be an exciting new hat. Yeah. So that's next.
Wonderful, wonderful. Finally, two quick things.
Mm.
Is there anything that we haven't mentioned that you'd like to expand on, or maybe it's something we have discussed? Just some final thoughts, maybe for our worldwide audience. And secondly, the second part of my question is, if people want to find out more about the Finch Factor, about the events that you're taking place in, where's the best place to send people to? Is it your website? Is it connect with you on LinkedIn? So
It's
two-parter.
Okay, well, thank you for that. So yes, please, if anybody's interested, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to expand my network and to find out, you know, and to chat. It's Kerrie Finch, and that's Kerrie. Otherwise, you will go down a rabbit hole of other Finches. And then also, you know, you can check out my website, which is finchfactor.com. And there you'll also find a sizzle reel, a show reel of what I'm like on stage. So if that's for you, get in touch. And then what's next? Oh, sorry, what did you ask? You asked,
Well,
that's the
basically,
problem.
as you know, anything that you'd like to share? Is there anything that you'd like to share with our worldwide audience as we wrap up here today? Any final thoughts, Kerrie?
Well, one thing I would say, if you're in America or you're an American, please vote, because we need good people at the helm of any company and of any country. And I think every single vote is going to count in this next election in the States. I've got no skin in the game other than I'm a global citizen, and I want to make sure that the world I live in is driven and led and influenced by good people. So yeah, if you're in America or you're an American, please vote.
Well, that's a good place for us to end on. It's been wonderful to spend some time with you today here on the Global Discussion. Before I wrap up, I just want to thank everybody who's watching or listening to this episode, wherever they are on the planet. Make sure that you follow, like, subscribe, do everything I need you to do to help support the Global Discussion show. Go and check out the Finch Factor. Check out Kerrie Finch, Kerrie. Make sure you get the right Kerrie.
That's it.
And all the great things that Kerrie's involved in. I certainly recommend that. And I hope you'll join me back here for some more discussions with creatives and leaders and thinkers just like Kerrie. Kerrie, it's been wonderful to talk to you again today.
Thank you so much, Simon. It's been fun.